It's way harder to change the external world to fit your internal problems than it is to change your internal problems to fit the external world. Now, what I mean by this is I'm going to get right to the point. Where our power lies is right here. Where your individual power lies is where you individually are. That's obvious, or at least it should be obvious. Because what you're in control of is you, your response, your reactions, your actions, what you say, what you do, how you carry yourself. You're running the show of your individual self. The one thing you don't have control over, though, is everything else. Everything else that we would define as other. The external world. Everybody else, everything else, the external circumstances, the weather, people, what people say, what people do, how people treat you, all these things. The one thing you don't have control over just so happens to be the one thing that we're all trying to change to fit our internal problems. And that's really the essence of that statement, is that it's way harder to change and modify the outside and sort of like watch over the outside to make sure, don't do that, don't say that, definitely don't do that, because you're gonna trigger me. You're gonna bother my inside problems. It's way more painful. It's way more, you're gonna get let down a lot when you're trying to change the external world to fit your internal problems. It's way harder to get the external to bow down and bend to your will of how you'd like it to be than it is to shift and alter and work with the internal to accommodate what's going on around you. Now, think of the statement, I'm triggered. What that means is that I have stuff within me that I can't let go of or forget about, and I need the outside to not say something or do something, or else I will be triggered. If you say that, or if you do that, or if I see that, or if I hear that, I get triggered. So see, that's very problematic, because now what you're going to do is you're going to live your life in a way where you try to avoid those things that trigger you. Rather than facing that thing within you that triggers you, rather than dealing with it, facing it, overcoming it, embracing it, embodying it, what we do is we suppress it, we wear it, we say, this stuff triggers me, and then we try to alter the external world so that we don't get triggered. But see, here's the thing. We're not in control of the external world. So you're either going to have to isolate yourself from that thing that triggers you, aka limiting how you live your life, or you're going to get triggered. You're going to run into those things that trigger you, whether it's seeing a certain person, or hearing about a certain subject, or whatever it is on the outside that triggers you. You're either going to have to hide from it, get triggered, or deal with it within you, work with it within you. So, I have a pretty startling example of this needing to change the outside to accommodate our inner stuff. I remember a few years ago, my dad was really upset about something, and he's the kind of person where it's always out here. It's always, you did that, and you said that, and you did that, and it's never, what am I doing? How am I acting? How am I showing up? And I remember he was really worked up about this thing. I don't remember exactly what it was, but he said, I'm gonna go get a tattoo or get a new truck or something. And he's like, something needs to change. He was really worked up, really emotionally distressed. And he knew something needs to change, but what was it that he wanted to change? The outside. He thought that getting a tattoo or getting a new truck would soothe and alleviate the problem. He didn't consider that what needs to change is him. This brings me right back to that initial statement that it's way harder to change the external world. It's way harder to get a truck and a tattoo to make you happy than it is to look in and inquire at the thing of, why do I feel like I need a truck and a tattoo to be happy? Why do I feel like I need to control and manipulate the external world in order for me to be happy? Why can't I, independent of the external world, work on myself to be able to live with reality as it is? And see, this right here is the key to manifestation. We all hear, when we get into spirituality, we undoubtedly come across this thing called manifestation, where we hear that we can use, at first glance, we can use these magical, mystical powers of the field and the quantum realm and the law of attraction to bring in all these things that we want. Abundance and law of attraction and all this stuff. We think that it's this sort of metaphysical magic trick to bring in all these things, whether that's a SP, a specific person, or a job, or an amount of money, or fame, or success, or whatever it is. We try to use this law of attraction, this manifestation, to try to get stuff on the outside. But see, that's literally, that's not what it is at all. And I'm guilty of thinking in that way, thinking in that framework when I initially learned about manifestation. I remember I was into spirituality for a long time before I ever heard of the law of attraction, and when I initially started learning about it, I was like, dude, that's like, why would I want to involve myself with that? That's just like ego desire stuff, because I was really associated with like Eastern spirituality of Hinduism and mysticism and Buddhism and letting go of the desires, not trying to use magic tricks to get them fulfilled. But see, within, I'd say, the last year, 2 years or so, I've really started to get down with the vibe and the energy of manifestation and the law of attraction and the law of abundance. What it means is that you have the ability to feel the feelings of fulfillment before you get the thing that you think would cause that fulfillment. And when you start to realize that, when you start to catch wind of that, it will absolutely blow your mind. Because you'll start to realize, why have I been postponing my happiness for something on the outside to give me permission to feel what I could already feel myself? You know what I'm saying? You ever sitting down and you have you start replaying an argument you had with somebody? And then you start feeling all this anxiety and anger and all this stuff. Dude, it's not even happening. It's happening in your mind, and you're reciting it, and you're relaying it to yourself, and it's creating all this release of emotions within you that are putting you in the state as though that argument was happening again. This is literally the key. This is the key behind manifestation, that you have what it takes to feel the joy, feel the love, feel the abundance, feel the fulfillment right now, regardless of what the outside is doing. But we live in this backwards version of it where we say, I'm not going to feel fulfilled until I have enough money, until I have this partner, until I have this car, until my body looks like this, until I live here, until I have this job. We postpone our happiness, waiting for the outside to give it to us. We give our power to the outside. And see, that's the same thing with being triggered, is we're saying, if you say that, if you do that, you're going to bother me. So don't do that. I'm not going to work on the inside and sort of alleviate these things that trigger me. Rather, I'm going to try to manipulate you and tell you and the whole world, hey, don't trigger me because I'm a very sensitive individual. Manifestation and working from the inside out is about realizing that you have what it takes to live with reality as it is right now. And not only do you have what it takes to stop getting triggered by all this external stuff and stop chasing all this external stuff to make you happy, but also you possess the ability to feel that fulfillment, which you think would come about as a result of getting that thing on the outside. You have the ability to feel that right now. If you sit down, like Neville Goddard, his main statement, he was a huge proponent of manifestation back in like the 50s or something like that. His main statement, his staple statement was, assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled. If you sit down right now and you engage in a meditation where you think of, let's say you want a certain job, you want a certain career, or you want to travel somewhere, you want to live somewhere, whatever your thing is, you sit down and you feel, what would it feel like to live in that place? See it, visualize it. Use your mind's inner eye to see that place and feel the excitement and feel the joy and the satisfaction and the wonder, the adventurous nature of finally being able to live in this spot. Forget about the fact that it's not actually there yet. Live in this feeling as though it were true. Live in the world in a, like practice, like literally you sit down and you create this little moment of practicing feeling those feelings now. And you might start to realize, like if you want a partner, sit down and you think, what would it feel like if I did have that partner? What would we do? How would I feel inside? You know? And you start to kind of weasel your way into that state of feeling that excitement, feeling that joy, feeling that love. And then usually what you do when you're a sort of newcomer, you're a sort of, you're new at this, is when you come out of that visualization, you say, oh, it's not really there. I was just imagining it. But you miss catching sight of the fact that you in that meditation were just feeling in love. You were just feeling like you were in that space. And see, really think about this for a second. You just felt all that joy. You felt in love without the thing that you think triggers you being in love. You just felt satisfaction without that thing that you think is what will make you satisfied. What does that tell you? That tells you that you don't need that thing on the outside to feel those feelings. All you need to do is reconfigure your inner narrative, your inner story, and live in that space, and there it is in its completeness. There those feelings are in their completeness. You know? And also, you may start to realize that the reason you want all these things is for the feeling that it gives you. You want that partner because you want to be in love, bro. Who doesn't want to be in love? You know what I mean? Everybody going around talking about screw love, man. Love is all the same. All the girls are the same. All the guys are the same and all this stuff. They're hurt. They would love to be in love. That's all they really want. That's all we all really want, is to be in love. But we're creating such limiting beliefs, such limiting conditions where that person is, when that person comes into my life, then I'll be happy. Then I'll be in love. When I can live there, then I'll be happy. You know what I'm saying? Manifestation, and really what I'm, the crossover between what I'm talking about here is manifestation and working from the inside out. Realizing that the power is in you, bro. The power is in you. And when you start practicing living in that feeling of gratitude, that feeling of love, that feeling of confidence, that feeling of creative expression, when you start giving yourself the permission to feel those feelings right now, even when your external world doesn't reflect it, the external world is going to start to change naturally. And see, this is the importance of authenticity and being who you are and realizing that it's not. Why am I going to wait for the outside to change to be happy? Why am I going to live and walk on eggshells saying, hey, external world, don't trigger me because I have all this stuff that I'm refusing to work on? Why would I live like that? Wouldn't I rather be able to live with reality as it is and be confident and embrace reality as it is, knowing that I have within me the power to work on how I respond to the world? Wouldn't I rather give myself the permission right now to feel joy, love, gratitude, rather than feeling damned, feeling at a deficit because I'm waiting for something on the outside to hopefully come along and grant me the permission to feel that joy and that love? Why would we live like that? So many of us, myself included, are caught up in this trap of thinking that the outside needs to change. Like, to bring up my dad again, something needs to change. I'm going to go get a tattoo. I'm going to go get a truck. You know what I'm saying? We all do this. We all do this. I need a new job. I need a new partner. I need to move. I need more money. I'm going to quit my job. I'm going to do this. I'm going to start going out here. I need more friends. I need this. All this external stuff. You know, I need more decorations. I'm going to buy stuff. I'm going to eat stuff. I'm going to drink stuff and smoke stuff and get with people. And we do all this external stuff, not realizing that where all the turmoil is coming from, where all the chaos is coming from is right here, bro. You can't run from what's within you. You're what's running. You're running from the thing that's running. You can't get away. That's maddening. When you don't want to face the reality of that. That's scary, that's horrifying when you're not ready to face the reality of it. But when you're ready to sit down and realize that you're where all the turmoil's at, it's not her fault, it's not his fault, it's not this industry or company's fault, it's not this place's fault, it's not that fault, it's not the outside that's responsible for why you feel the way you do inside. It's you having set up a certain layout of conditions that say, if this happens or doesn't happen, I'm going to feel happy or sad. I'm going to feel angry. I'm going to feel triggered. We need to realize that it's in our hands. It's up to us to shift our inner story, to shift our perception and our response to the world in such a way where we can live with reality as it is. And I don't need you to do something or not do something to make me feel the way I want to feel. I realize that I have the power within myself to live in the feelings that I'd like to feel in the world. We're not victims. I made a video a little while about this, talking about we're addicted to our pain because we feel like, well, it's not my fault that I feel so horrible inside. But in reality, it's your responsibility, man. It's your responsibility to realize, okay, my upbringing was the way it was. That person abusing me and leaving me and betraying me, that happened. Okay. I have a job that doesn't pay me enough. All right, what are we going to do here? Am I going to live in a monotonous, ongoing hell because I feel like I am so disempowered that I'll never be able to feel better? Or am I going to realize, like, well, let's work with what we have here. Let's work with what's on our plate. Let's work from the inside out. And see, sometimes I can feel guilty when I'm talking about this stuff because I feel like a lot of us, we could consider ourselves privileged, where you think about, like, people that are starving or people that are imprisoned or people like the Holocaust and these horrific things, war, prisoners of war and all this stuff, starvation and torture and all this really intense stuff. But see, some of the wisest people came and were born out of those horrific experiences. And what did they teach? You know what I'm saying? What did these people teach? They taught that regardless of your outer circumstances, it's up to you to make the best of it, to literally make the best of it, to accept where you're at and to work up from that point. You know what I'm saying? Like, when we give our power away to all these people and all these circumstances, and we think we'll never be better unless the outside changes. It's kind of like what we are is oil, what the self is oil, and what the external is water. And when we get all raced up and involved with the outside saying, don't do this, don't do that, please don't say that, it's like we get all mixed up with the water. And now who we are, our sovereign self is completely mixed and emulsified in the external world where we don't even know who we are anymore. But when we settle down, when we start to collect ourselves, naturally we rise above it. And all the oil, all of who we are, rises above the external world, and we realize that we're our own being. And we're facing the external world, and we're here together. And we find ourselves again. We collect ourselves above all of the external chaos and realize, like, dude, like, it's in my power to work with how I'm responding to this life. You know what I'm saying? So this video is to say, it's to emphasize the importance of realizing that we need to work from inside out. When you shift, I think it was Wayne Dyer who said, change your mind, change your life. When you work from the inside, the outside naturally changes. When you start, there's this quote that says, I would rather be hated for who I am than loved for who I am not. Now, if that probably is obvious meaning to a lot of you, but what that really means is I would rather people leave me alone because I'm being who I am than have people come flocking to me because I'm being who I am not. I would rather, when you're authentic, see, this is really, really important, and I made a video about this just yesterday, and I want to touch on it again because it's really important stuff. When you aren't authentic, well, first of all, let's think about what does it mean to be authentic? We're all here for a reason. We're all here with a purpose, and what that purpose is to be authentic. Now, how do you be authentic? Being authentic is if you have this calling, if you have this dream, if you have this aspiration, you go after it. That is your purpose. That is what it means to be authentic. And to live in authenticity is to go after your purpose, to pursue your dreams, to do your dharma. Now, a lot of people will say, well, I don't have a purpose. I don't have a dream. I don't have any aspirations. I literally have people in my life that say this. And see, if that is what you're saying and that's what you genuinely and intuitively feel within you, then that is your purpose right now. And you need to honor that. You need to honor the fact that you feel like you don't have a purpose. Be with that. Honor that. That's your purpose right now. But it would be a shame and a disservice to not only you, but the entire rest of the universe where you do have a purpose, but you're suppressing it. You're dismissing it. You're not pursuing it. That is inauthenticity, and that's what a lot of us, myself included, do a lot of the time, where we limit ourselves, we suppress ourselves, we dismiss ourselves, we don't share how we feel, we don't share how we think, we don't express what we want to do, we don't go after what we want to do because there's fear of rejection and fear of failure and fear of being judged and fear of letdown and fear of not being able to get it, and there's all these limiting beliefs, and all they are, guys, is beliefs. It's a limiting story. You know what I'm saying? To be authentic means to be unapologetically you, to show up as who you are. And the important thing in this is that when you decide once and for all that I'm going to be who I am unapologetically and show up authentically as who I am and how I feel and what I want to say and what I believe in and how I want to spend my time, when you finally decide to be you, your whole life will change. Because when you've been living in this cycle of being loved for who you're not, you've created an entire kingdom based upon a foundation of fallacy. You have this whole group of friends and this whole clothing style and this whole mental and physical aesthetic that isn't even genuine to you because you've been living as what you think other people want you to be. So now you're surrounded by people who love you for who you're not, and you're engaging in a lifestyle that is not genuine and in line and in harmony with who you actually are, all because you're limiting yourself, all because you're afraid of failure or you're afraid of being judged or whatever it is that's causing you to feel like you're not worthy of being who you actually are. When you put your foot down and you decide, you know what? I don't care what happens. I'm going to be who I am. I'm going to honor who I am. I'm going to stand up and I'm going to show up as who I am. Your whole life is going to change. And it's going to feel, it could be really scary because it's going to feel like the whole foundation of that kingdom is crumbling. But you got to realize that the fear that you feel as that kingdom is crumbling is the fear of it's a past self feeling. And that past self is the false self. The kingdom that's crumbling when you decide to finally live authentically is the kingdom of fallacy. And what comes with that is a lot of people are going to disappear. A lot of people are going to not like you anymore because you're living in a different frequency. You're living on a different plane, on a different level. And when you come out of the shadows of the fallacy self and start to stand up for who you are and what you actually believe in and how you actually want to live your life, people get all weird. Your whole life is going to change. And see, the reason this happens is because you're not waiting for the outside world to give you permission to be who you are. You're deciding to put your foot down and be you, and then the world starts to change. Everything starts to transform. That's manifestation. When you start from the inside, the external world acts as a reflection that then naturally transforms. And when the way that you've changed on the inside is more in line and in harmony with who you actually are, then the external world changes for the better. It changes in such a way that accommodates that inner transformation. So when you go from living a fallacy and living in fear of judgment, and you transition into living a life of authenticity and embracing who you actually are, and people start to go away, and your coworkers start treating you differently, and you start living your life differently and all this stuff, and you start to feel that panic, realize that that's a panic that is only in correspondence with that past self that you've just let go of. What are you going to do? Are you going to revert back to being fake to keep these people around who decided to leave when you decided to step into your power of who you actually are? You know what I'm saying? You need to remain steadfast. You need to remain in that feeling of authenticity within you. Now, this may all seem really at least for me, it can seem like a lot to share all at once. But what I'm talking about, to really put it all in a nutshell is that we need to work from the inside out, and don't worry about the outside, bro. Don't worry about the external circumstances. The inside is what matters. You know what I'm saying? Like, the outside will get really chaotic. The outside will really start to grab at your attention. You know what I'm saying? But you focus on you, focus on you, focus on you. Live in the feelings of joy and authenticity and courage and confidence and enjoyment. Always. Practice it. Sit down every day and feel the feelings of love and gratitude and joy. You know, Neville Goddard, assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled. Live in it right now, right now, right now. And your life will start to transform. And it's going to look really scary. But the one that it looks scary to is the one that you're stepping out of. The person that you're leaving behind, because it's no longer in line with who you really are. It's no longer in line with your purpose. And once you start actually honoring your purpose and honoring your authentic self, a lot of stuff is going to change. So what we need to do to tie this up is we need to do a complete 180, where rather than going after the outside to try to get everything to change and accommodate our internal mess, we need to turn it all around and say, okay, you know what? I'm going to let the world be what it is. I'm going to let that person do what they do. And I'm going to let all of this outside stuff be the way it is. And I'm going to work from the inside out. I'm going to work from where it all starts for me individually. I'm going to work with, how do I feel? How do I treat people? How do I talk to myself? How do I feel about myself? When I look in the mirror, what do I say? What thoughts come up? You know what I'm saying? How do I spend my day? How do I feel? When a problem arises, how do I handle it? What do I do? You know what I'm saying? Really start to work from the inside. Why am I waiting for something to make me happy? What if it's possible to be happy now? Why can't I be happy now? Why can't I be in love and in joy and in peace now? When you shift that, you're showing up. You're finally showing up. And that's when the world is going to start to do some weird shit. That's when the world is going to start to do some weird shit, because you're acting as a serving force in authenticity. You know what I'm saying? A serving force in showing up as who you are. And the world can't help but shift and transform around that. You're diffusing your power every time you go out of yourself to get the world to do what you want it to do to make you happy. You think of being in a relationship and the person starts to, you're having an amazing time and the person starts to pull away. Our knee-jerk reaction, because we're so addicted to trying to change the outside to make us happy, when someone starts to pull away that was once giving us all this love, our knee-jerk reaction is to say, no, come back. Come back. Let me prove to you that I'm worthy of your love. Let me remind you of how valuable I am. Let me try harder to convince you that I'm worth loving. That's the toxic mentality. That's the mentality of working from the outside in. That's the mentality of trying to change the external to fit my internal mess. But when you flip that on its head, when somebody starts to leave, you say, hey man, like I'm being me, and if that's not enough for you, then we're not meant to be together. I'm not gonna, no, come back, you know what I'm saying? If what I am, and if I'm living from a place of purity, and that's not enough for you, then I'm sorry, I'll see you later. That's a way different approach to life, where you're not going out of yourself, you're not disempowering yourself, you're not giving yourself away to somebody else. Why would you do that? Why would you give your power away to the external world when you can live in that feeling of joy right now? When you know your worth, when you know your power, when you know your capability, when you know what you have to offer. You know what I'm saying? Don't wait for the outside change for you to be happy. Work from the inside out, regardless of what your external circumstances are. Thank you so much for watching. I really hope you guys enjoyed. And if you did enjoy, consider leaving a thumbs up so that this video can get recommended to more people like you.